Hey everyone, welcome to another Deep Dive with us.
Always fun to be here.
So today we're diving into something you don't hear much about these days. It's quiet success.
Yeah, kind of an interesting concept, right? Like we're always hearing about people making it big and all the,
Social media and all that, yeah.
Yeah, all the noise.
But what about the people achieving great things without needing all that outward validation? You know what I mean? Like the folks quietly making a difference without needing the spotlight.
That's what we're going to try and unpack today.
Right. And to kind of illustrate this idea, we've got a great story. It's a classic motivational tale about the Chinese bamboo tree.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of this one.
Have you? Well, let's see if our version matches up.
Sounds good. I'm all ears.
Okay, so imagine this. You plant a bamboo seed, right? You water it, you give it the perfect soil, everything it needs, but for like the first 4 years, you see absolutely nothing.
Yeah, this part's like you're waiting and waiting. And...
Nothing. It's like it's not even growing right. I mean, could you imagine the frustration? Like you'd start to think maybe you did something wrong or the seed was bad.
Totally. You'd probably be tempted to give up by then.
Right, because we're all about instant gratification these days, aren't we? We want to see results now, now, now.
Exactly.
But hold on, here's where it gets really interesting. In year 5, that bamboo tree suddenly explodes with growth. It can shoot up like 80 feet or more in just a few weeks.
It's incredible. I mean, from nothing to this massive plant almost overnight.
Right. It's like it was dormant all that time, but of course it wasn't really dormant, was it? It was busy building this incredibly extensive root system underground all those years, laying the foundation for that crazy growth spurt.
Like setting the stage for something spectacular.
Exactly. And that's where I think this bamboo story becomes such a powerful metaphor for any kind of success, you know? We tend to fixate on the outward results, the things people see, but it's the dedication, the persistence, all the work that happens behind the scenes that really makes the difference.
It's like that saying, the iceberg effect.
Yeah.
You only see the tip, but there's so much more going on beneath the surface.
That's a great way to put it. And I think a lot of people can relate to that, you know? We might spend years honing a skill or building a business or, just developing our resilience. And a lot of that isn't always visible to the outside world.
Yeah, for sure. It's like you're quietly putting in the work day after day, building that foundation for your future success.
So how does all this underground work actually benefit us? Like, aside from the personal satisfaction, what are the advantages of achieving success quietly?
Well, for one, I think it cultivates a much deeper sense of inner confidence. It's not about seeking external validation or chasing likes on social media. It's about knowing your worth based on your own efforts and your own growth.
So it's more about intrinsic motivation, right? Like you're driven by a sense of purpose and fulfillment that comes from within.
Absolutely. And that kind of confidence is unshakable. It's not dependent on what other people think or say. It's rooted in your own self-belief and your own sense of accomplishment.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like the difference between feeling good because someone compliments your outfit and feeling good because, you crushed a presentation at work. One is fleeting, the other is more lasting and more empowering.
Exactly. And I think there's also a certain freedom that comes with focusing on the work itself without that constant pressure to showcase yourself or seek recognition. It allows for deeper focus, more genuine creativity, and a stronger sense of purpose.
It's almost like a quiet rebellion against that look at me culture we see online.
Yeah, it's like saying, I'm going to focus on what matters to me, on building something meaningful, even if it takes time and doesn't generate a lot of buzz.
Because real success isn't about being the loudest voice in the room, is it?
Not at all. It's about making a real impact, and often that happens quietly behind the scenes.
That actually reminds me of something I read recently about a study on happiness. They found that people who focus on what they call intrinsic goals, things that are personally meaningful to them, tend to be much more satisfied than those who chase things like fame or fortune.
Yeah, I've seen similar research. It's like if you're chasing external validation, you're always going to be on that hedonic treadmill, never really satisfied.
So it's not just about achieving goals, it's about choosing the right goals. Goals that align with our values and bring us genuine joy.
Exactly.
And speaking of people who seem to really embody this idea of quiet success, we wanted to highlight someone who made a huge impact without ever seeking the spotlight, Grace Hopper.
Oh yeah, what a legend. I'm excited to hear more about her.
So for those who might not know, Grace Hopper was a pioneer in computer programming. She's credited with developing the first compiler, which essentially laid the foundation for how we write software today.
Her work was absolutely groundbreaking. I mean, she was way ahead of her time.
And what's really remarkable is that she wasn't motivated by fame or recognition. She was just deeply passionate about problem solving and making technology more accessible and useful.
That's really inspiring. Like, she's driven by a genuine desire to make a difference.
And she did all of this while working in a field that was completely dominated by men, often working behind the scenes without getting the credit she deserved.
It's amazing how much she accomplished despite facing those challenges.
And yet her dedication and quiet persistence led to innovations that completely transformed the tech industry. It's a testament to the power of letting your results speak for themselves.
It's a great example of how impactful quiet success can be. Like, she wasn't out there seeking accolades. She was focused on the work, and that work ended up having a ripple effect that changed the world.
It makes you wonder how we measure success when it's not about outward accolades or, going viral on social media.
Right. Like, what are the metrics that really matter when we're working in the shadows and not seeking the limelight?
That's a great question. Maybe it's about the impact we have, the skills we develop, or the deep sense of satisfaction that comes from doing work that aligns with our values.
It probably looks different for everyone, but I think it's about finding those intrinsic rewards that fuel our passion and keep us moving forward even when no one's watching.
It's like we need a new set of criteria for evaluating success, one that's not based on external validation, but on something much deeper and more meaningful.
I love that idea. Like, maybe it's time to redefine what success looks like and start celebrating those who are quietly making a difference in their own unique ways.
It's like those ripples that spread out from a pebble dropped in a pond. We may not always see the full extent of our impact, but it's there quietly shaping the world around us.
And that brings us to the next part of our deep dive, where we'll explore some practical strategies for cultivating this kind of quiet success in your own life. We'll be right back after a short break.
Welcome back. I'm really fascinated by this idea of kind of redefining success like we were talking about. It's so easy to get caught up in, all the external metrics, the followers, the likes, all that stuff. But what if we shifted our focus to something deeper, something more intrinsic?
It's like we need to develop a new kind of internal compass, right? One that's pointing us toward genuine fulfillment rather than just external validation. Exactly. And that compass needs to be calibrated to our own unique values and aspirations, right? So let's dive into some practical strategies for how we can actually cultivate this kind of quiet success.
Yeah.
One thing that really stood out to me from our research was this idea of celebrating what they call private victories. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's so important, especially these days. We live in a world that's constantly telling us to share everything, to document every little achievement. But there's something incredibly powerful about acknowledging our own progress quietly and intentionally without needing an audience. You know what I mean?
It's like giving ourselves that little pat on the back, recognizing those small wins that might go unnoticed by others, but that are significant to us in our own personal journey.
Yeah, it's about those little moments of self-recognition, those internal high fives that keep us motivated and moving forward.
And those private celebrations can be so powerful because they help us stay focused on the process, on the intrinsic rewards of our efforts, rather than getting sidetracked by, needing that validation from the outside world.
So it's about finding that satisfaction from within, right?
Exactly. One practical way to do this that I found really helpful is keeping a journal. Just taking a few minutes each day to reflect on your accomplishments, big or small, can make a huge difference in how you perceive your own success.
That's a great tip. I've heard that from a lot of successful people, actually. And it makes sense, right? It's like you're creating a record of your progress, a tangible reminder of how far you've come.
And it can be a really powerful tool for self-discovery, too. You start to see patterns in your behavior, identify areas where you excel, and pinpoint areas where you might need to adjust your approach. It's like having a personal coach in a notebook.
Speaking of coaches, our sources also talk about the importance of surrounding ourselves with the right people. What role do you think our social circle plays in this whole idea of quiet success?
Oh, it's huge. The people we spend time with can either support our efforts or sabotage them.
Yeah.
Sometimes without even realizing it.
Yeah, it's like that saying, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If we're constantly surrounded by people who prioritize external validation above all else, it's going to be a lot harder to stay focused on our own internal compass.
Absolutely. So it's about being mindful of the company we keep and actively seeking out those who share our values, who get it.
Yeah.
You know?
People who understand that real success isn't about being flashy or loud, but about The quiet dedication, the steady progress, the things that really matter in the long run.
Exactly. And it's not just about finding cheerleaders either. We need people who are willing to challenge us, to offer constructive criticism, to help us see our blind spots.
It's about having those trusted advisors who can give us honest feedback and help keep us accountable.
Right, because sometimes the most valuable feedback comes from those who are a few steps ahead of us on the path.
Like those mentors or role models who embody those principles of quiet success.
Exactly. They can offer guidance, wisdom, insights. And sometimes just knowing that someone else has walked a similar path can be incredibly encouraging.
Now, another key aspect of quiet success that we keep coming back to is this idea of letting our results speak for themselves. In a world that's so obsessed with self-promotion, this can feel kind of counterintuitive. But how do we reconcile that with the need to, get our work seen and appreciated?
It's a great question. And I think it comes down to focusing on excellence in everything we do. When we put our heart and soul into our work, when we strive to go above and beyond, the results will naturally speak volumes about our dedication and our talent.
It's like that saying, actions speak louder than words, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about letting our work become our most eloquent advocate.
So it's not about being shy or hiding our light under a bushel or anything. It's about trusting that the quality of our efforts will shine through without needing to shout about it from the rooftops.
And there's a certain magnetism to that kind of quiet confidence. People are naturally drawn to those who exude competence and authenticity, who let their actions speak for themselves rather than trying to hype themselves up.
Yeah, it's like the difference between a flashy fireworks display that's over in a few minutes and a giant oak tree that stands tall and strong for centuries.
I love that analogy. One is all about instant gratification, the other is about enduring impact.
And that enduring impact often comes from consistency and dedication, right? It's about showing up day after day, even when you don't feel like it, and putting in the work, even when no one's watching.
It's about those small, consistent efforts that accumulate over time and eventually compound into something much greater than the sum of their parts.
Like that bamboo tree patiently building its root system underground, preparing for its eventual moment of triumph.
Exactly. Now, while consistency is key, it's also important to be adaptable. The path to quiet success is rarely a straight line.
There are going to be detours, setbacks, unexpected challenges along the way.
And that's where resilience comes in. It's about having the grit and determination to keep going even when things get tough and to learn from those challenges along the way.
It's about embracing the journey with all its twists and turns, recognizing that those obstacles often lead to the most valuable lessons and growth opportunities.
I couldn't agree more. So we've talked about celebrating those private victories, surrounding ourselves with the right people, letting our results speak for themselves, and cultivating resilience. What other strategies can help us navigate this path of quiet success?
Well, one thing that I think is super important but often gets overlooked is the need to tune out the noise. We live in a world that's just saturated with information, opinions, distractions.
It's like a constant barrage of input vying for our attention.
And if we're not careful, we can easily get swept up in that frenzy and lose sight of what truly matters to us.
So how do we protect our mental space and stay focused on our own path when there's so much vying for our attention?
It's about being intentional with our time and energy, right? It's about curating our information intake, setting boundaries with social media, and creating space for quiet reflection and deep work.
It's about finding those pockets of stillness where we can reconnect with our own inner compass, where we can actually hear our own voice amidst all the clamor of the world.
Because sometimes those moments of quiet contemplation are where the most profound insights and creative breakthroughs happen.
It's like stepping back from the canvas to gain a fresh perspective on your work.
So it's not about becoming a hermit or anything, but about creating a healthy balance between engaging with the external world and nurturing our internal world.
And finding that balance is an ongoing process. It's a constant dance between absorbing information and filtering out distractions, between seeking inspiration and cultivating inner peace.
It's a journey of self-discovery, a process of refining our internal compass and learning to trust our own intuition.
And as we continue to explore this path of quiet success, it's important to remember that it's not a destination. It's a way of being.
It's a way of approaching our work and our lives with intention, authenticity, and a deep commitment to our own growth and fulfillment.
And as we'll explore in the final part of our deep dive, it's a path that can lead to profound satisfaction, lasting impact, and a sense of purpose that transcends the fleeting allure of external validation.
We'll be back after a short break to wrap things up.
Welcome back to our deep dive.
We've talked a lot about the philosophy and strategies of quiet success, but now I'm thinking, how do we actually apply this stuff, in our everyday lives? It's one thing to understand the concept, but how do we actually make it real?
It's a great question, right? Like, it's easy to talk about aligning our actions with our values and tuning out the noise and all that. But how do we actually weave those principles into our daily routines? How do we make it a part of who we are?
Yeah, that's what I'm curious about too. I think for me, it starts with setting intentions. Like at the beginning of each day or even each week, I try to take some time to just reflect on what I want to accomplish. Not just like tasks on a to-do list, but also how I want to show up, how I want to feel.
That's a fantastic practice.
Yeah.
I love that. It's about being proactive instead of reactive, right? Like consciously choosing how you want to spend your time and energy instead of just letting the day control you.
Yeah, exactly. It's like setting your internal compass each morning,
Yeah.
reminding yourself of what's important and making sure you're moving in the right direction.
And sometimes that might mean saying no to things that don't align with your goals, even if they seem like good opportunities or things other people expect you to do.
That's so true. And it can be hard to do,
But
especially for people pleasers or, when we feel that pressure to meet everyone else's expectations.
for sure. But I found that saying no to the things that drain you or distract you from your purpose, it actually frees up space for the things that really matter.
It's about protecting your time and energy, right?
Exactly. It's about creating boundaries, both with yourself and with others, and making sure you're prioritizing the things that fuel your passion and give you that sense of fulfillment.
Another thing that's helped me is breaking down those big goals, those big audacious goals into smaller, more manageable steps. Sometimes when we focus too much on that huge end goal, it can be overwhelming.
Oh, absolutely. It's
Yeah.
like trying to climb a mountain in a single leap.
Yeah.
You got to break it down into those smaller, achievable milestones and celebrate those little victories along the way.
It's all about creating momentum, right? Building that sense of accomplishment and progress one step at a time.
And each step, no matter how small, brings you closer to that ultimate destination.
And I think it's important to remember that the path to quiet success, it's rarely linear. There will be detours, setbacks, unexpected challenges along the way.
Oh, absolutely. You can hit those
Oh.
bumps in the road.
Yeah.
But that's all part of the journey, right?
Mm.
And often those challenges are our greatest teachers.
They push us out of our comfort zones, force us to think differently.
Exactly. They help us develop resilience. And I think that's a crucial ingredient for any kind of success, quiet or otherwise.
So how do we actually cultivate that resilience? That ability to bounce back from those setbacks and keep moving forward even when things get tough.
A lot of it comes down to mindset, I think. It's about reframing those challenges as opportunities for growth, you know, seeing failure as valuable feedback instead of as some kind of personal defeat.
It's about adopting that growth mindset, right? Believing that our abilities aren't fixed, but that we can always learn and grow and improve.
Exactly. And part of that growth mindset is being willing to seek out feedback from others. Not just praise, but also that constructive criticism that can help us identify those blind spots and areas where we can do better.
It's about being open to different perspectives, even if they challenge our assumptions or make us a little uncomfortable.
Because sometimes the most valuable insights come from the people who see things differently than we do.
And that brings us back to the importance of surrounding ourselves with the right people. Those who support our growth and challenge our thinking and inspire us to be our best selves.
Those are the people who will be there for you through thick and thin, who will celebrate your wins and offer support when you stumble.
It's about building that network of support, that community of like-minded individuals who understand what you're trying to achieve.
And as you cultivate those relationships, remember that you have something valuable to offer as well. Quiet success isn't about isolation or trying to do everything on your own. It's about collaboration and sharing your gifts and talents with the world.
It's about finding that balance between pursuing your own individual path and connecting with others who share your values.
And as we do that, as we embrace these principles of quiet success and weave them into the fabric of our lives, we create a ripple effect that extends far beyond ourselves.
It's like that bamboo tree sending out its shoots after years of quiet growth, inspiring those around it to reach for their own potential.
Quiet success is a journey, not a destination. It's a way of being, a way of approaching our work and our lives with intention, authenticity, and a deep commitment to our own growth and fulfillment.
And as we've explored in this deep dive, it's a path that can lead to incredible rewards, deep satisfaction, lasting impact, and a sense of purpose that goes way beyond the fleeting allure of fame and recognition.
So we encourage you to embrace this power of quiet success in your own life.
Yeah.
Tune out the noise, connect with your values, work diligently, and celebrate your wins. The world needs your unique contributions. your quiet brilliance, your dedication to the things that matter most.
Keep learning, keep growing, keep creating. The journey is yours